My Mother, the Bearded Lady, is a selection of letters by Miles Kington, one of the most popular and prolific humorous columnists of the 20th century, who wrote for Punch and then for The Times and The Independent. Tragically, he died a few years ago, and so is not around to plug this book. But three great friends of his, Joanna Lumley, Stephanie Cole and Michael Palin, have volunteered to do it for him.
I got to know Miles at Oxford and I was immensely envious of him. Miles could speak many languages, he played in a jazz band and he could write and perform comedy. I mean, what was there to like about someone like that? But my envy was also tinged with great enjoyment whenever I saw him performing and when I read his writings, because Miles had a really lovely, gentle, deceptively gentle style, which these letters beautifully illustrate. It sort of creeps up on you without you being aware of it, and suddenly you realise there's a hard edge to what he's saying. He knows what he wants to get at, knows what he wants to say, and also he can be extremely silly, which is what I like very much indeed.
To the Assistant Features Editor, The Daily Mail, Dear Genevieve.
I like the sound of your Sons and Mothers feature very much.
Unfortunately, it's one I would rather read than contribute to.
Out of respect for my mother's memory.
My late mother was a very special sort of person. Not only was she a fine mother to me, but also, more unusually, a circus performer, and worked most of the time that I knew her as Bridget the Bearded Lady.
So bearded was she that I often introduced her to people as my father. In that case, they would say, who is the mild and meek-mannered man walking behind you?
That is my mother, I would say. She changed sex shortly after I was born and became the man he always wanted to be. But to me, she will always be my mother.
Although my mother was bearded, her chief glory was her tattoos, which had been given her by an artist who had trained abroad, but had never quite made it as a painter.
He'd always intended to be a landscape painter, which probably explains why most of the tattoos were scenes of Switzerland.
And I can remember from an early age looking longingly upon my mother's unclothed form,
conceiving an intense desire to go to Switzerland.
This was granted to me when I was about 10, when all three of us went to the Alps for a fortnight and saw at first hand all the scenes familiar to us from Mother's tattoos.
When my father thereafter talked to people glowingly about our Swiss trip, he would often illustrate his remarks by reference to her tattoos, which she would obediently demonstrate, as other people might use slides or, these days, a video recording.
But out of deference to her modesty, he never referred to our morning in Zurich Cathedral, as the corresponding tattoo was in an indelicate place.
It was only much later that I discovered my mother's dreadful secret, and that by complete accident.
I came in her bathroom one day thinking it to be empty and found an attractive-looking middle-aged lady there.
"Who are you?" I cried. "Do you not recognise your mother?" "Mother? But where's your beard?"
"Lying on the chair behind you."
So it was for the first time that I learnt that my mother was not truly bearded and that she had always worn a false one.
Things were never quite the same. Of the truth about her tattoos, I will not even speak.
But shortly before she died, she asked me to swear that I would never reveal the truth about her beard, even in my autobiography.
"There are many people in many places with fond memories of Bridget the Bearded Lady," she said. "I would not wish them to be disillusioned. I shall carry my secret to the grave. And my beard too, please."
I hope you understand if I am reluctant to contribute.
Yours sincerely,
Miles Kington.
So that's it. You can see what I mean by heavenly. That's the reason to buy this book. Every letter completely different, and it's packed with the same sort of brilliance and mad humour. And this is only a tiny sample. Miles wrote about over 20,000 letters. I'm proud to have a few of them, and you're lucky enough because you're going to read more of them in this book. Buy it. Don't be a fool.
Whenever I'm feeling a bit low, I take myself up to my study and I pick up a sheaf of papers, and on that sheaf of papers there are 630 Albanian proverbs, every one of which makes me want to roll on the floor laughing. And the other, slightly smaller pile is excuses for not going to a dinner party. And can I recommend that if ever you're feeling low, depressed, or worse than that, please go and buy one of Miles's books and you will find such fun, for me, he was the Mark Twain of our time, or the P.G. Wodehouse, but much unsung and underrated, I think, despite his prolific output. And I really, really would, Christmas is coming up, I would actually say to you, get out there and buy the book. A wonderful present, buy it for yourself. I'd buy several copies actually. Self, friends, everybody. It's well worth it. I can't recommend it, and I can't recommend him to you too highly.